Well, sometimes stuff happens. This video is dedicated to getting myself back out of situations where something's happened that needs to be fixed. In the last video, I talked about how difficult it is to work in a dense woodlot like this and not hang up a tree occasionally. So this first scenario is how to get a tree down once it's hung up. In this situation, it was just too dense. Actually, when I cut the tree, I knew it was going to hang up because there was no way for me to get it down with the trees that were so close to it. Luckily, this one is in a situation, and I could follow it, where it's between trees. It's not hung up bad, but the branches are tangled up with branches of other trees. So all I need to do is get it down enough to get through those branches, and she'll fall. When working with a tree like this that's just hung up in branches and will come down, I like to give a bit of a twist to the tree. So I set the chain up so that when I pull on it, it's going to try to pull it around. Now, my first go, I put the chain on the wrong side, had to turn it back around, but you can see what I'm doing here. So I get the tree, or the chain, wrapped around the tree in a way that when I pull, it's going to spin the tree a little bit. Now, luckily, this tree came down pretty easy. All I had to do was yank on it a little bit, and it got through the branches and fell down all the way. Not too big of a deal. If you hang a tree up hard, sometimes you've got to actually pull it away from the tree, and in that situation, I'll hook it up and actually drag the butt as far as it needs to go to drop. Here I'm putting tension on the cable as I wind it in so it doesn't bird nest on the spool. That can get to be a real problem because you won't be able to pull the cable back out. This is the way it's supposed to go when you're doing a TSI. Now these are all smaller trees, so it goes pretty easy. There's a couple of medium sized, but just drop them, drop them, drop them. These trees have all been marked, so I know just which ones to cut and go and do it. The bulk of the trees I've cut in this TSI are bigger than these. They're typically 6 to 10 inches, something on that order. Some smaller, some bigger, but I chose this particular scene because I could just go through and do a bunch of them and show you a number of trees falling. Boom, boom, boom. Now this tree starts with a typical falling sequence. I look at a tree from two different angles to get a good idea of which way it's leaning and wants to fall. However, this one turns out to be a fail on my part. I didn't account for the wind. I knew it was a little bit iffy, but if I fell it in the opposite direction of the way I tried, there was a really good chance of it hanging up. But I thought it was pretty even chance of it going where I wanted it to, so I cut it and tried to fall it in the direction as you'll see it ends up going. My big mistake here was not putting a wedge in when I had the opportunity to do so. Just as I'm getting the hinge set up, we had a gust of wind, and as you'll see, it pushes the tree back onto the sawbar. If I had set the wedge in, I wouldn't have ended up having the trouble that I did with this one. As it turns out, the tree had come back hard enough that I could not get a wedge started, and this was a maple and sap was flowing, so that also made an issue because it makes everything slippery, and the wedges would just pop out even if I got a little bit of a start on them. Now I could continue to fight putting a wedge in and stuff, or gotten the other saw or the axe to make it so that I could get a wedge in there and hammer on it and get it over, but it had come far enough back that I knew it would be a bit of a struggle. Easier just to get the winch cable on it, pull it over. So that's what I end up doing. You can see where the tractor is in the background. I actually put a snatch block on the cable and came to more of the front of the tree with the cable leaving the tractor where it is, or where it was, or pretty close anyway. Just a light tug and she comes right over. This one I would consider a fail on my part because it didn't have to happen. I could have got this over without a problem. Now, this is a situation that happens once in a while. I try not to drop trees where I've got the tops in a trail. Sometimes you just can't help it because there's no other way to fall it. I'll often fall trees where the butt is across the trail because then just, topping it or bucking it a little bit, I can shove those out pretty easy. When you put a top in the trail, there's a lot more work to get it cleaned up. From experience, I found that it's best to leave the pieces in fairly long, bigger pieces without having them brushy. So you've got to cut the Ys off and that type of thing. And you don't want them too long where they're going to get hung up on the sides. But you try to leave it long enough so that when I push it with the tractor, the whole pile will move at once. In this situation, it would be nice to have a tractor with a front end loader and a brush grapple, but I don't have a brush grapple, so I just, use what I have to make it work, and it does okay. It just takes a little bit extra time. One of the tricks of doing this type of job with the dozer blade on the winch is to make sure that you get everything. You get it low enough so that you're not leaving sticks and brush behind to get run over with the wheels. If it's just small stuff, it's not too bad. But you really want to stay low with it and push the whole pile at once. But you can't keep it so low that you tear up the trail with it. So it's a little bit of a trade-off and a little bit of finesse to get it just right. The other issue is pushing the pile up a bank or something on that, or you've got to pick the winch up as you're going up the bank. You can't have stuff coming in underneath it, but you also can't let it dig into the dirt and stop you. All I'm trying to do here is just get the trail clear so that I can drive through with the tractor or the tractor in the trailer, that type of thing. So I'm not really looking to get the brush piles way far off, just enough for me to clear the trail. Like I said, I try really hard not to drop a tree with the top in the trail, but sometimes it just can't be helped. of these three scenarios, in the last 50 years, I can count on one hand how many times I've gotten a saw pinched in a tree and needed to do something about it. But hanging up a tree, especially in dense, that's not all that uncommon. And putting brush on a trail and having to clean that up, that's not all that uncommon either. So those two scenarios you'll end up having to deal with on a somewhat regular basis, not all the time, but occasionally. If you're careful and have some forethought, getting a saw stuck in a tree or having the tree go in a direction that you don't want it to, that should be a very rare occasion. You don't have to have a winch to do any of these things. If you've got any vehicle that you can pull with or push with, that'll work for getting something unstuck or pulling something over. As long as you're careful, you can actually even use like a come along if you don't have a vehicle. Cleaning brush out of a trail, you can do that all manually. Just cut it up into pieces that you can handle and throw them off the trail. So you don't have to have a winch for any of these. It just makes life a little easier.